What up YouTube, Salvador Briggman here. Welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified YouTube channel. On this channel we talk about crowdfunding, Kickstarter, raising money, and specifically how you can level up your game. You can get the funding you need to create this product, to create this creative project, whatever it is you're trying to do, and you can really level up your game and enjoy eventually a life of being a business owner, a life of having a product out there that people love and really impacting the world, I think, in a small way. So with this YouTube video, I want to talk about some of the Kickstarter mistakes that you should avoid going into an upcoming crowdfunding campaign. And I think these mistakes are pretty common. They're honestly some of the reasons why the success percentages are so low on Kickstarter. So you really got to listen up because I see so many creators making these mistakes. People on kickstarterforum.org, people that are reaching out to me. All the time I hear about these mistakes. So I really want to make sure that you can avoid them, and that way you can have a more successful crowdfunding campaign. Okay, mistake number one is failing to create a page that takes into account how other people are viewing your project. Now, I know that sounds kind of like highfalutin and kind of in the sky, so let me bring that down to earth. All too often, I'll see a creator who puts together a project kind of asking the crowd for a donation or asking the crowd for funding or asking people to support this project. And that's the kind of the wrong way to go about this, because when you're not thinking about how someone else is perceiving this page, you're creating a page that makes sense to you because you have all this information in your head. You know you put together a good project. You know you have the ability to pull off and execute this campaign. You know you are a trustworthy person, but not everyone else knows that out there online. And particularly strangers on Kickstarter maybe don't believe that because they've been scammed by other projects in the past. So what you want to do is you want to think about how your title sounds to someone else. Your title on Kickstarter. Is this teasing a benefit? Are you making a promise? Are you basically listing something where when someone sees that title, they're going to want to click it because they want to find out more about this, how you actually created this product. So number one is that. Also the thumbnail for the video, making sure your video is short and emotionally evocative and also walks the person through how they would use this product. Who is this product for? What is a little bit of the functionality supporting that? What's the story? You really want to have a short, punchy video. All too often I have people approach me that have a really long pitch video and they're like, you know, I think people are gonna like this. Like, I put a lot of effort into this. I'm very authentic on the video. I think this is a really good video. The problem is it almost doesn't matter. Like, people, you have to have a really good videography skills in order to get someone to watch an 8-minute pitch video, particularly when you're trying to get them to do something. The way the human mind works nowadays with online video, it just usually is not emotionally evocative enough to command their attention for the span of 8 minutes. So you want to have a short, punchy video. I'm talking like 3.5 minutes, at most 4 minutes, that goes through people using the product, talking a little bit about the story, talking about who this is for, maybe also some of the values, how you want to change the world, and it really just basically painting a picture of how this product could fit into someone else's life, using B-roll, changing camera angles, all that kind of stuff. You know, I know that I'm kind of breaking that rule making this YouTube video because I'm doing an educational video, but with Kickstarter, you're doing a persuasive video. To give you an example, I'll link to a travel video I did down below when I visited the Philippines. And that video is a really good example of you feel like you are there with me traveling through the Philippines when you watch that video because of all the B-roll and the angles and the cuts that I do in order to make it feel like that. You want people to feel something after watching your video and also with your campaign page. So that was mistake number one, not putting yourself in someone else's shoes. Mistake number two, oh man, this is too close. Mistake number two. Mistake number two is that basically, when you're putting together a campaign page, you want to have some kind of a pre-launch that you create before you go live on Kickstarter. And all too often people will be like, well, Sal, I'm trying to actually do a Kickstarter campaign because I want to raise money for something. Well, my answer always is like, that's great, but at the same time, you have to prime the pump. You can't just expect people to support a campaign that has $0 pledge. It rarely happens. You kind of have to prime the pump. You have to get people a little bit interested at first. You have to sort of kindle the fire. And the way you do that is with a pre-launch. You warm people up to the fact that you're running a campaign, that something really cool is coming. You get them eager and wanting to anticipate this next thing that you're going to be launching. And you do that with a pre-launch. I have other videos out there about how to do a pre-launch. I talk about doing a pre-launch in my book, The Kickstarter Launch Formula, as well as some of my online programs and such. And if you continue to follow me, you'll start to learn more about that whole marketing process. Or if you book a coaching call, I can give it all to you right now and also structure it for your particular project. So pre-launch is a very important aspect, and that is something that people fail to do a lot of the times when they're launching a Kickstarter campaign. And you even hear people who come on my podcast and they're like, yeah, I wish I did a pre-launch. Like, that would have been a really smart idea. I would have raised even more money. Or, hey, yeah, I failed actually with my first campaign. This is my second campaign I launched. For my first campaign, I failed to do a pre-launch, and that is why the campaign failed. I want to take a second to introduce you to the sponsor of today's video, and that is Fulfillrite. Fulfillrite is a turnkey solution for helping you get the products out there to your customers and to your backers. Whether you're doing a Kickstarter campaign or an Indiegogo campaign, eventually you're going to have to do order fulfillment and get those rewards out there into the hands of your backers. So what these guys do is they basically offer a streamlined service for you, and they take all that headache away. I highly recommend outsourcing this element of your campaign because it's going to make everything easier in the future. If you want to learn more about Fulfillrite, I'm going to include a link down below in the description of this YouTube video. But in addition, you can also check it out on the web at fulfillrite.com, and you can learn more there. Thanks for listening, and let's get back to the video. The next massive Kickstarter mistake is that if you are running a Kickstarter campaign, you don't just get to keep the money that you've raised. Naturally, you have to ship out all the rewards and the perks that you've promised people. So to think that you aren't going to have to deal with different costs is kind of a mistake, and people all too often will not plan for that. They won't think about things like fulfillment costs, shipping costs, duties, things like postage, things like how am I going to actually take the time to actually package and pick all these different things. What about Kickstarter fees? What about credit card processing fees? What about survey fees from a software provider? What about the taxes related to the campaign? There are all of these different costs that go into fulfilling rewards and to fill that initial batch of rewards, of course, like the manufacturing costs and such. This is the most boring part of the campaign. Now, some of you might love this. Some of you might be like Excel junkies, or you really be good at math in school and you just like organizing stuff. That is not me. I hate doing that stuff. So what you're gonna have to do is you're gonna have to kind of bite the bullet here, get a little bit more disciplined, break out the Excel spreadsheet, and start to get into, okay, this is what our price point is going to be for the product. What happens if we're overfunded? What happens if we offer stretch goals? What happens if we do add-ons? How does this impact the overall shipping and logistics? And how does this impact the weight of the package that we're going to send out? How does that impact postage? Like all these different things, you want to break out an Excel spreadsheet and start to answer these questions line by line. And that's going to help you feel more confident. And also, when you go on Kickstarter and then you know that you have a certain advertising budget that you can afford because you've thought about it ahead of time. Think about the costs that go into the product before, not after. The next mistake that I see is kind of thinking that funding, the way that it works, we're gonna get really, I guess, more technical here, like a funding trajectory, a funding graph. What does that look like? A lot of people think that a funding graph is linear, that it just goes from here to here. You launch, you get funding, you get funding, you get funding, you get funding. If you're finally funded, you continue to exceed funding. Some campaigns do work like that, but they are usually not the norm. Most campaigns that I see, the graph looks more of like you shoot up and you get a bunch of funding in the first 3 days, maybe the first week. Then it sort of stagnates, you lose momentum a bit. You're maybe slowly working to get momentum, and then sort of in the last 3 days or so, you shoot up again because people realize the campaign is ending and they're only gonna have a limited amount of time to actually own one of these products. That is what a funding trajectory looks like. So a big mistake that I see is people will shoot up initially and then they'll be like, oh yeah, like everything's going great. They're really happy and they're celebrating. And then they hit that Kickstarter slump of death and they're like, uh-oh, they start to panic. They start to buy services that don't work, or they start to do things that invest money in marketing when they've never done that before, and they're just wasting money because they don't know how to do marketing. So it's like, it's a very difficult period. So a big mistake I see is not planning for the Kickstarter slump of death and things that you can do in the meantime. And I have some videos out there, I have some more content on that, but like, maybe even like media mentions or influencers or creative rewards or creative stretch goals or more interaction with updates, planning those updates. How are you gonna continue to have that excitement going on throughout this Kickstarter launch. That is a mistake that I see, and one of the culprits behind not raising as much as you should. The final one that comes to mind at the moment is really kind of dealing with like complexity. When you are an entrepreneur and you are cursed with having so many great ideas, you kind of want to fit lots of options and lots of products almost into one launch. And people are always like, should I launch one campaign and have like all these different SKUs for my product and offer different colors and versions and different things? No. You want to keep fulfillment as simple as possible for you, because you're already going to have complications, I guarantee you, in the fulfillment phase. So think about, how can you simplify this process? Don't offer too many options or SKUs unless they're really easy to do, and easy to do like with stretch goals. If you're going to have to bend over backwards and do lots and lots of stuff in order to offer this other option to creators, to backers, always ask yourself if it's worth that, because most often it is not worth it to overcomplicate the project. Instead, have a simple project, keep it punchy, keep it really easy to deliver these, and then you can always run another Kickstarter campaign for another idea that you have, another 2.0 of the project. We see many examples of this done successfully. Hope you enjoyed this YouTube video. If you haven't already, take a second to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Give me a thumbs up if you did like this video. Be sure to leave a comment down below if you have any questions. Check out some of the links that I have in the description, going more in depth into some of the topics that I discussed here, and also some of those resources. And finally, make sure you turn on notifications. Some people sometimes will subscribe, but they forget to turn on notifications for the channel. So turning on notifications guarantees you're gonna get the video. So you just kind of can like sit back, relax, and watch, and you can learn more about Kickstarter and crowdfunding. So it's really a no-brainer there. I hope you like this video. Again, my name is Sal, and I will see you next time.